Behold, my glorious supporter Cephalon Star asks how I feel about the fact that my sub count on my YouTube channel is about 30k, which means that if every subscriber watches a video I make, I'm speaking to a crowd that would quite easily fill a small football or soccer stadium. Yeah, it's weird, ain't it? I think the place to start talking about this is how the effect you have on a person when you influence them in person, like face to face, or physically in the same location, at least. If you're in a football or soccer stadium, I would not call it face to face when you see people there, but you know what I mean, like you're there. Versus influencing them on the internet, I think on the surface seems like, oh, well, it's weaker. Basically, what you've done is traded power, like thorough influence, for scale, for influencing more people. So normally it would be very difficult for somebody to personally, like in the same location, talk to 30,000 people. That is, only very famous people get to do that most of the time. But by using YouTube, some schmuck like me can influence the masses, is the idea. And like the idea that drift frame has been watched by like 3/4 of a million people is insane to think about from that perspective. But then if you think about it from YouTube's perspective, it's like that's actually a lot less people than it seems like it is. And a lot of it is reviews from the same person. So the second thing I want to start talking about is how it's deceptive in that YouTube is weaker in a way, in that a lot of the views are repeats or bots. And there are also plenty of them that are just a mistake. Like autoplay was on and it just went to that video, and the person left it on that video for whatever reason. Maybe their hands were busy, or they okay, well, or whatever, for whatever reason they let it play, or maybe it was a child using the account, and they weren't watching in the first place. So the video like was watched, it played, but it didn't, nobody, it didn't influence anyone because nobody really saw it, not because it didn't land. And then the other thing is that when people see something in person, it's so uncommon for them to just like hate the message of the thing, because it's like, how did they get to that, being in person with that person in the first place? Whereas YouTube has creates a lot of situations where you have someone on the table that you could influence, but they strongly disagree with the thing that you're trying to influence them toward, which is not particularly common, like physically, like in person. It's a lot more common when you stumble upon a random video. And a lot of that is because of like different social tells, for example. When you see someone in person, you often are incorrect in your impressions of them at first, but it's true that there is a way in which you usually don't have no idea what is going to come out of someone's mouth, like based very vaguely on their appearance and where they are and how they're walking and whatever. You have some idea, at least what you expect to come out of their mouth, and so generally speaking, you just don't get as far as like some person influencing you in a space that you physically chose to be in. Like you just wouldn't have gotten that far if you were going to disagree with them a lot of the time. It's also true that people get caught up in the crowd and just sort of agree with things that are crazy. See the United States political situation right now. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that on the surface, it kind of feels like YouTube is trading like power of influence for numbers. You get more numbers, but less power. And then as you go a little bit deeper, it seems like, oh, well, hold on, it could be even worse. Like, actually, a lot of those numbers don't mean a lot. There's a way in which I think YouTube is, not exactly YouTube specifically, but a an algorithm that serves up video content. Let's just say it that way, because hopefully it won't be YouTube for much longer. But yeah, I think there's kind of a hidden strength to this that I talk a lot about on Twitch, which is that you are getting people in their leisure time. You're getting people in private. You're getting people while they're relaxing. And in a way, this means that you really have people's full attention in a way that you normally don't have anyone's full attention. I feel like even in a close, happy relationship, it is uncommon to have that level of attention, even from the people you're closest to in your life, even from your family. It is simply hard to give someone that much attention, but a video viewing platform makes it rather easy comparatively. And that's very powerful because there are some things that, put gently, are much more effective, and if they were said to you directly in person, you would at worst shrug it off, and not even listen to what the person said, or maybe even get angry. You would feel like somebody was talking down to you if they were giving you a lot of information. But if the video is just kind of there, you're able to be opened up to learning, for example, and feel not attacked, hopefully, because you're not being attacked. Like, no one is speaking to you. So there's an advantage that gets hidden in there of the very fact that you are a little bit more hands off with your influence can result in influence. Like, that can be an influential quality. I think a really good example of this is therapy. It's a situation where it's like the person's job is to listen to you, like talk about the stuff that's not, whatever in your life. And so a lot of people name that thing as the most prominent thing that helps them about therapy. It's not really because the person is like there for them specifically. On the contrary, it's almost at first the fact that the person has to be there either way. So like you might as well, talk about the thing or whatever. And I think that it's kind of like that, where it's like, well, this is already here, so you could take it or leave it, but like, you know, you don't have to feel like it's targeting you specifically. Now, of course, there are people that feel like that, and that's how we get a lot of bad comment sections on YouTube channels. But the point I'm trying to make is that there is a very interesting specific advantage to YouTube that causes that the weakness, what would be the weakness, that you like don't get as much direct influence over the people that are watching your thing, can actually be a strength. And I think that the power of YouTube is that some types of content can harness that. They can make it so what would be the weakness of a platform like YouTube, you get lots of people, but you don't get to influence them that much, actually turns into a strength, and you are influencing way more people than you ever possibly could as an individual. Like, I just cannot go walk around and talk to 750,000 people about drift frame. It's not possible. Like, I'll die before I finish. And you can make an impression on them that you wouldn't have been able to make in person either. So it's like you're really losing absolutely nothing. It's just a better way to communicate with people. The reason that I do YouTube as a job is because I think that it's almost like every other profession is pointless from my point of view. And I don't mean that, I'm sure I don't mean that to say like I don't appreciate everybody's hard work. What I mean is that if all you want is raw influence, I just don't see why you would ever do anything else. Like, nothing even comes close, is what it feels like. And there are weird situations like on Twitch where I think you get a lot of power. You uniquely get an ability that I like to talk about a lot from Chinese philosophy, where nobody's mind changes in one sitting. So if somebody sits down and they have an idea, it's very rare to meet someone for whom that idea even could change within that one sitting. And the way that you can really change people's minds is with persistence. It doesn't really matter that much how the individual sessions go, but if somebody keeps coming back to your stream, you have a tremendous amount of influence over them, and I do not take that lightly. In fact, I could get better at using that. It is a powerful thing to have that in your hands, and I want to make people happy and have fun with that ability. Let's do fun stuff together, since we have that space cut aside for us. And YouTube doesn't always provide that the same way. Videos do, I guess, if people subscribe, but the truth is that when you get a video that has a huge number of views, it's almost always people that are not going to watch a video of yours again. Or maybe they know of you, but like they're not going to consume your content again. So like the drift frame video doesn't do that. It doesn't give me the ability to like change a preconceived notion, yeah. Anyway, I guess what I'm going on about. How long has that been? Oh my god, it's been 9 minutes. I love looking at the little timer while recording these. What I'm trying to say is that I feel like it's not enough. That 30,000 people is a small number, and I wanted to explain all of that stuff I just explained before saying that, because otherwise I would probably sound like an ungrateful asshole. It's amazing that there's that many people that felt compelled one way or another to do the thing, to hit the button, but at the same time, I don't think it is unreasonable to view that as a small number of people. I feel like a lot of what people talk about on YouTube, really large YouTubers talk about on YouTube as a career, is how to visualize the number of people you're speaking to. In other words, like to make it seem as big as it is. But I actually think that it can be more helpful to make it as small as it is. I feel like it really isn't that many people when you think about the type of influence you've had on them. Like, it kind of doesn't. And to put it in another way, it's like if 750,000 people watch Drift Frame, how much did they really like it if I only have 30,000 subscribers? you know? So it's humbling, but not in the way that people usually say it is. Like, I feel humbled by the number, and I don't mean that because I think the number is huge and I can't believe that many people are listening to me. I think that because the number is actually kind of tiny, and I can't believe it's like you get to a point where you can see how much further there is to go, and you have this moment of awe and reverence and kind of terror in a way, thinking like, wow, that's really inadequate. In a way that does not make me upset. Like, it doesn't make me sad. It's emboldening, or again, even at the worst, like just like terrifying in a way that makes you want to make progress. How much of a drop in the bucket showing a video to 750,000 people is. Like it, I think that is more helpful. I think it's more helpful to think of it that way and focus not on the numbers getting bigger and bigger, but really doing something with the influence, and to say, you actually aren't influencing that many people. I know it seems like, oh, it's this huge number, we should imagine what a million people is like. But the truth is, a million people is actually not that many people. And you should value the power of the influence more than the numbers. And even though YouTube is used for propagating the rest of your content stream with numbers, because that's what the platform is good at, I think that the most important thing that you can do with YouTube is focus on that hidden strength of like power of influence that YouTube can have, where sometimes getting people in a casual moment, sometimes having something not directly addressed to someone can have a lot of power. It can also very easily be messed up and not be a strength at all, which I do relatively frequently. But it can be very valuable, and I think that is the thing that's what it makes me think about. It makes me think, well, if it's only going to be this many people, I know it's like, it's 30,000 people. I want to make sure that the thing I'm putting out to those people, to those relatively few people, if I'm going to keep saying it this way, is good, like makes a mark in some way. Because I feel like actually thinking about a football or soccer stadium, like you were saying as an example, that isn't that many people. I don't think that's that many people. And to slightly begin to try to explain without dragging this video on forever what I mean by that, it's also like influence is influence. Like, are you really just trying to have some effect? Are you trying to just poke 3,000 people? You know what I mean? Like, influence is not useful unless you influence people to do something that, if I may be so humble as to say, actually has a good effect on for them or for the world or for you, I guess, influencing them to spend money or whatever. So it doesn't really matter if you're influencing a bunch of people, but like it's not to do something. And so like when you go to like a soccer game, you are being influenced like by the players in some nebulous various ways, but I sort of feel like it's not toward a call to action, and that's not to say there's anything wrong with just entertainment. It's just to say that when I am valuing this like power of influence that is kind of specific to YouTube or this type of format, that's what I mean. I mean like getting people to actually do something, like changing the climate, the meta of Warframe, or changing how people view their recreation, or how stuff like that, being open-minded, basically. Like the call to action that I'm trying to get people to do is like open your mind to thinking about things a different way, and don't confuse me with a religious leader for saying open your mind. I think that's probably as much of an explanation as I can muster. It's tricky. It is, like, thinking about the number of people. And I know it might be weird, again, to keep hearing me say, like, it's not that many people. But I really don't think it is. Like, how many of those people can you really get to do something? And I just say that because that's what I want. Like, when I say I want influence, I'm not just power hungry. Like, I want to do something with it. Like, and that's fine. You can want influence without wanting to do something with it. That's okay. but I feel like that's the difference between a celebrity and I don't know what the other thing would be called, but like the version of a celebrity that is by merit, which is, I guess, what I want. I want people to think if I am effective, I want to be thought of as effective. I don't want people. I want people to like me only in proportion to how effectively I do the thing I'm trying to do. And I guess to be understood is part of it. Whereas, like, I would argue that the goal of a celebrity is definitely not to be understood, and not the merit of a celebrity is essentially that they are who they are. Like, it's not because they do good things necessarily. Although once they have that many resources at their fingertips, they often do pretty good in some way things, artistically valuable, charity, tabloid paycheck valuable, and so I feel like it's interesting to think about it that way and to think about it as a lot of people like to say that people are underrated when they like a creator and the creator is not like super popular, but I've often said that I feel like you should think about it more as like, have I influenced all the people that would be influenced by this thing? Like, has my growth slowed down because of YouTube or because of Warframe or because of me? Or is it that I've reached the people that want to see the content I'm making? You know what I mean? Like, I found them. Here they are. They're all here, you know? And in that sense, thinking about a football stadium full of people, and those are the only people that want to listen to me, that makes it seem kind of small. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like, I don't know. I'm maybe my chops are not quite up to snuff if the only people that want to listen to me are the contents of one football stadium. Like, when you go out into the world, how many people do you think you would be friends with? Like, you could be friends with 10%, 5%, 50%, all of them, 1%, none of them. I don't know. It depends on the person. But the point I'm trying to make is, like, even if it was like 1%, if you think you can make a meaningful connection with 1% of people, that dwarfs the amount of people I've influenced. Like, in the world overall, my videos can be seen anywhere in the world on the internet as long as the Great Firewall. But not that many people have ultimately seen them. And like, there's various things complicating that. I'm just trying to say that if you think of it that way, the truth is you'd think that more people would like want to have a game with me, you know, do the game with me, but they don't. And again, there are a lot of factors behind that, but I think one of them is just like, there is a long way to go. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm curious what people think about that. This ended up being a lot longer than when I looked at the timer. So thank you very much, Cephalon Star, for asking this question. It's a very timely question. We're doing pretty well. We are around 30,000 on YouTube, around 10,000 followers on Twitch, about 100 subscribers, which is pretty good. That is 1 out of every 100 people that followed is a subscriber. That's a pretty good conversion rate, I think. And on Twitter, which doesn't really matter that much, I have 1,000 followers. See you later.